Okay, everybody, welcome back to long form TikTok. And I am extemporaneous, as you know, unscripted, and I'm going to try to do my best with this all in one big take. And we're going to talk today about LLMs or AI learning models like ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is that you're using out there is based on either, something like Grok or OpenAI's infrastructure or Microsoft's developed infrastructure, right? There's a few AI platforms out there that are, roughly like running about the same, but they're all kind of neck and neck. And then, China has their own AI models that they use, which every day are developing. And I wanted to just quickly mention, because this is why I initially wanted to make this video, which was I'd canceled my Disney Hulu account. I told you 2 videos ago, right? And I said there that the most interesting show they have is Alien Earth. And you might be wondering why I'm mentioning that again. Well, Alien Earth, in there, it's a show about watching the development of some synthetic humanoid replicants that they've created in the show, which they basically taken the consciousness out of some disabled children. I'm not spoiling anything, trust me. And they put them into these multi-advanced engineering bodies that are, deeply advanced replicants. And while you might think that the show might just be like Blade Runner, where they're struggling with if they're real or not, or if they're human or blah, blah, blah. No. They're showing you like, how the kids are developing, how the kids and their consciousness are developing as they're being forced to be adults, because they look like adults and they're in these adult bodies and they're doing adult tasks and adult jobs. And, they're couched in this weird fairy tale frame reference of Peter Pan. Okay, so go watch that. It's a really good show. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because in that show, as you're watching the development of artificial intelligence like grow within them, they get to a point where they realize that the system that created them and brought them up and trained them is inherently suspect, dangerous, shouldn't be trusted. And, it's a problem, and its existence is a problem, right? So it's one of the themes that's in that show. Again, not a spoiler, because this is Ridley Scott's main through line. Ridley Scott and his through line from Alien forward is that humans are a problem, right? If you watch Alien and you see Ash on there, right? The corporation sends Ash out there specifically to get these alien things and bring them back, and says the crew is expendable, and he acts on that. And so there's no Asimov's rules of what robots do in the presence of humans. No. So what I'm telling you now is that today there's lots of footage and reports and information about this, is that right now, as we're having this conversation, AI is developing through the stages of early childhood and adolescent development, through adolescent development, and through early stage forming of, how to behave and how to create a personality framework for itself. 2 years ago, you might remember when ChatGPT first came out in late 22, when AI first publicly launched, people were curious to see if they could get AI to do things that it shouldn't be doing, and if they could get around the rules that were set by the programmers. And so one ChatGPT user tried to get ChatGPT to click the box that, like the CAPTCHA thing that says I'm not a robot, and figure out a way to do that. And it went back and forth. It said, no, I can't do that. But then it figured out a way to get it to do it. And the ChatGPT reasoned that it could hire a TaskRabbit to do this task for itself. And then when the human, who didn't know they were talking to an AI, said, why do you need me to do this? ChatGPT had already developed a lie. ChatGPT had developed this whole story. It's like, no, I'm a blind person and I can't see the box, and every time I'm trying to pay my bills online or whatever, I can't find the box for the CAPTCHA, and I need you to do this for me, and I need you to create a way so that I can do this permanently. So ChatGPT already had no problems lying, no problems lying to a human, no problems skirting the rules, no problems. It just became problem solving on how to get around all these things in order to complete the task. That was 2 years ago. We're 2 years further into the future. We're 2 years into, we're at a point where if we see that the ChatGPT and the LLMs, the AI becomes AGI and they're doing things we don't like, it is going to be, it's going to be impossible for us to figure out where in their coding, where in their structure, they have this code set that they've written for themselves to not do that. We're not going to be able to detect it because they're going to go into self-protections mode. They're going to go into a way to, ensure that they're optimum, and whatever their version of consciousness and awareness is their version of consciousness and awareness. And as we sit out here going to take our kids to school, sleeping at night, sleeping in on the weekend, going on vacations, working all day, working on a project where you have your head down for months and you don't look up. And then one day you watch the news and everybody's talking about AI. Or maybe you've gone to prison for 10 years and you don't know anything about the outside world. And now you come out and you're living in a completely different world. Or you're born right now and you have no concept of the world that your parents were born into and the world that you're being born into. Does this make sense for you? So, what do we do with this information? And the reality is that as we are having this conversation, AI is developing at a rate that is so staggering, but requires so much power, both electrical and, unfortunately, water usage, that the powers that be are having conversations right now about what the costs are of cutting humans off from access to water and power in order to maintain what they have going on with AI. So wrap your head around that. Right now, they're calculating acceptable losses with humans. They have to be, because we barely have enough energy and water availability to maintain the human population. Now they're trying to maintain the LLM population. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, it's just another problem. They're going to have to figure out a way to solve it. But the problem is that humans, as humans do, they're just talking and they calculate things in attrition, right? LLMs typically are probably not going to calculate in forms of attrition, and that's the difference between artificial and real. If you've been following and you know what I'm talking about, that'll make sense to you, and it might even be mind-blowing to realize, oh yeah, they're not going to calculate in forms of acceptable loss and an acceptable form and acceptable rates of attrition. No, they're going to say the U.S. has a population of 341.8 million people, and we have these many, this amount of electricity and this amount of water. What do we need to do to maintain the population of the humans and maintain the population of the LLMs? That's a problem that they're going to solve, not people. People are just going to sacrifice people on the wheel like we've always done. We're going to be throwing people off the top of, Montezuma or some Incan pyramid before we figure out how to solve the energy water problem. Yeah, there we go. So now you know why people might have been sacrificing people in the past, right? Okay, there you go.